Hello and welcome to That Talk with Tariro, a weekly program that comes to you here on ZTV, and we deal with diverse issues. And of course, we always have a special bias to health issues, sexual reproductive health issues, and women, though we diversify and try and cover all those other issues. Today we have a guest who is not new on the talk, and once people see her face they already know what we are talking about. That's the issue of HIV. It's one of our speciality. We always go back to that particular issue. It's almost like the Talk with Tariro, we are branded with HIV, sexual reproductive health issues. We have Tendai Westerhoff. And when we are talking about the HIV response in Zimbabwe, ndova tinoti mawo veterans actually they've lived with HIV from the time that, almost from the time that we got to know, and they're still living their lives healthily. But now we have a new challenge. Yes, we know treatment is available. People living with HIV are able to access their treatment, living their long and healthy lives. But there are other challenges that they're starting to face. And that's what we are looking at today on the Talk with Tariro. Tendai, welcome to the talk. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Tariro.
What's been happening in the HIV response? Chimbotipai.com rekuti iye zvino, where are we?
Well, where we are now is the focus on ending AIDS by 2030. And we are looking at missing the targets, the hard to reach, when new HIV infections are still occurring. And we want to close those gaps to address inequalities, to address issues of stigma and discrimination, and also to ensure that we do not have punitive laws that criminalize HIV and AIDS. So all this is part of the universal targets of ending AIDS by 2030, the 2040-80, and the 10-10-10 that the UNAIDS always talk about. And ndozvatiri kungoitawo kuti in every country in our response to HIV and AIDS, by 2030 we want to see that less than 10% of countries have punitive have removed punitive laws, that criminalize HIV and AIDS. And less than 10% of the countries also have dealt with issues of stigma and discrimination. And less than 10% of countries universally have dealt with issues of gender-based violence. That's what we are talking about. And the focus is putting people first and communities at the center of the response. And as Zimbabwe, we are also fitting into that universal strategy, as we do have our own strategy as a country, which feeds into that and it guides us. And as community-based organizations, we also have our mini strategies that feed into the national strategy. One coordinating body, that's the 3 ones, one implementing strategy, and also one monitoring and evaluation.
When we're talking about punitive laws, Tendai, which ones are these? We still have laws criminalizing HIV in this era?
Well, in other countries, yes, it's quite pronounced, but in Zimbabwe, it's neither here and there. You know, a few years back, through a lot of advocacy from civil society, our government apparently repealed those laws. But recently, I was reading in the paper that anyone who infects a child who is below 18, it's termed criminal and they'll be prosecuted. And for me personally, I support that law. But when it comes to criminalizing HIV and AIDS among adults, it becomes a problem because one has to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And it's a complicated issue because sometimes when you meet a person, you romance and the issue of sex, comes into play, but you cannot tell as long as you don't know the status of your partner. So you wouldn't know who infected who first. And it puts the burdens on the person who is who feel they've been violated to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the partner or husband or wife the sexual partner is infected them with HIV. So those are what we call criminalization and part of the punitive laws that are there. But in this country, that was repealed.
Okay.
Yes.
And you spoke about the 10% stigma, still focusing on stigma, more than 30 years into the HIV pandemic, epidemic. Are we still experiencing stigma in this day and age, Tendai?
Yes, Tariro, stigma is the best killer, is the biggest killer for people living with HIV and AIDS. We still have people who are still in denial that the disease exists. You know, it's because of stigma. And we still have environments whereby people cannot accept people living with HIV. You know, now we have the new trends of key populations in their diversity. Just that they are not accepted, you know, it also culminates into stigma, and it forces the HIV virus underground with its devastating effects to society. We need to deal with the stigma. And you know, when we look at the 95, you know, the issue of stigma, it still stands out. We are doing well in the other two, but the third 95 of zero stigma, we seem not to be doing very well.
Why is that so?
I don't know exactly what we should do, because it's 30 years into the AIDS pandemic, but we are still experiencing new HIV infections. A lot of investment has gone into fighting HIV and AIDS and all its facets. But we still have places where there are high incidences, you know, like places close to border towns, key populations who include sex work, and, you know, people, some survivors who are raped. You know, HIV incidences are happening, and including in vertical transmission of pregnant mothers who are expectant. We are not doing very well as a country. We are still having children being born with HIV and AIDS. But the issue of stigma, it's rife in healthcare settings, in the communities, structural stigma, societal stigma, it's still persistent. And when we talk about stigma to people like us, people may think we don't feel it, but we have learned to pay a blind eye because I'm living with HIV. That's what I am. I accepted it, and I cannot change it, and I don't expect everyone to like me with the way I am. So this is why I've managed to beat stigma at an individual level. But to some out there, they can't cope. And it also brings in issues of mental health and whatever. So we need to continue creating this awareness and even these new things that are emerging, such as mental health, you know, and because they are being contributed by the stigma that is still exists.
All right. Yeah, we thought it's important that we get an update before delving into our issue. And shockingly, in this day and age, if you are still stigmatizing somebody because of their HIV status, it's time to self-introspect. Join us after this short break. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion on the Talk with Tariro. And today we are looking at the issue of aging with HIV. There are major challenges that people who are living with HIV are actually starting to experience. Tendai, a lot of research is actually going into this particular issue. So unpack for us, when we are talking about aging with HIV, yes, we had our treatment, and now a person living with HIV is healthy the same way that somebody who's negative is. We know zvirwere zvakaita sana blood pressure, cancer, ndo zvatova more dangerous, ndo zviri kuuraya. HIV haisisiri kuuraya currently. But now with people living their normal lives, long lives, there are these issues that you are now saying they are rising. Kindly unpack those for us.
Yes, thank you, Tariro. I think you said it very, very well. Some of us, when we were infected with HIV, we were very young when we contracted HIV. And we are witness to an evolving epidemic. The way HIV was in 2000, and in the early 80s, when the first case of HIV was discovered in Zimbabwe in 1985, I personally got infected with HIV 17 years later. But I was still a young woman. And since that time, a lot has happened. Yes, I was put on treatment, and HIV treatment works. It brought in new hope. Hence, I've lived for 23 years. You see me the way I am. My treatment is working perfectly well. And over the years, we were also part of the evolution of HIV treatment. When new treatment was introduced, and we took it because the other treatment was not working well for us. So our viral load is now undetectable and suppressed and untransmissible. But emerging issues are now coming in. When we look at sexual and reproductive health rights, aging people are being prone to cervical cancer, including the younger ones as well. And women living with HIV are at twice the risk of contracting cervical cancer than those who are not living with HIV. And we have discovered that with the way we have been taking treatment over the many years, as you grow older also, your immune system weakens. So when I started taking the ARVs maybe 23 years ago, I was still a bit younger, and my immune system, despite that I had HIV, it was a bit strong to support my treatment. So the pill burden, and you can imagine the amount of pills I have taken for 23 years. At one time, I used to keep boxes at my house, and I filled up about 20 boxes. And when I looked at the boxes to say, these empty bottles, everything is coming to me, it depressed me. So all those things now are contributing as we are living with HIV and aging. To start with issues of obesity. You don't understand weight gain. Yes, you may try to exercise, but sometimes we are not very empowered on the kind of wellness programs and exercises we have to do as aging people. 10 years down the line, I used to enjoy jogging, skipping, and to do all kinds of things and to go to the gym. But now I can't. And I cannot just go to the gym without getting proper advice of the kinds of exercise that I should do to keep my body, healthy and fit. So these are the problems that we see as aging people. And issues of obesity and even fat distribution. And when this gaining of weight, you just become overweight, and you develop also cardiovascular problems like heart problems, and the issue of high blood pressure, or hypertension tops the list, and it's a silent killer right now. So among aging people, we are facing all those new emergent issues right now. So,
but somebody will say it's the same way as even somebody who's aging and they're HIV negative. Why is it becoming a problem, or why are we singling it out now for people living with HIV?
Yes, there is circumstantial evidence that sometimes the treatment that we take, it comes with side effects. But those side effects really, they are, what can I call them? It's like taking your ARVs continuously has more benefits than not taking. But there is circumstantial evidence that ARVs cause increase in body weight. Some ARVs do that. And when we are overweight, it results in heart problems. It results in high blood pressure and issues of mental health. So there is circumstantial evidence to support that. Because we are in the community. We are the people who are taking this treatment. And we know how our bodies are reacting to the treatment. Personally, at one time, I used to be a model, very slim, tall and beautiful and everything. But 3 years ago, ndakanzi BP, I was shocked. And I was put on a special program to ensure that BP yoyo inopera but ndakazoona kuti no mishonga yandinomwa and handichakwanisi kumhanya zvandaita kudhara zviya ndaida kumhanya ndaida kudidi iye zvino I can't even when I take a rope to start to skip now my body waakuramba but there could be other things that we can do. And then somebody can also talk about issues of nutrition, the diet and food that we eat. And we realize that the cheapest food that is there, our staple food in Zimbabwe, it's mealie meal.
Yes.
It's maize meal, sadza. And the sadza, ndo ratinodya, ndo rakachipa, ratinokwanisa ku afford. You know, with the socio-economic problems that are going on right now, some families cannot afford 2 plates of food, 2 meals a day. So you can imagine me taking my treatment without a proper diet. I'll end up ndongodya iro sadza nokuti ndo riripo. You know, I can't afford meat. The prices have gone high. I can't afford even to buy a crate of eggs. Right now, sometimes you have to part with $6 to $7 to buy chicken, to buy meat, to buy zvimwe zvino. Kana tichizoti zvinhu zvaidyiwa naambuya vedu tisati takura, you discover that nokuti mvura hadzisi kunaya, mbambaira hakusisina. You know, even utwane muriwo green veg ataisirima mugarden ayaya taakuashaiwa. So we are forced to eat what is available, what is there, and sometimes that lack of proper nutrition also contributes. It's affecting us as aging people. And then I believe that as you are aging now, this is the time that you really have to eat food. And not to go on these fat diets like what we used when we were younger. This time I must eat my bread, I must eat chikafu changu, I must eat nyama, I must eat my fishy, I must eat everything because my body, as I grow older, the immune system naturally, it all weakens. So I want my good nutrition to support the treatment that I take.
All right. We will continue with our discussion where our focus is aging with HIV. What are the challenges that people are facing? And in the third and final segment that's coming up, we want to look at what can we do to address those. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion with Tendai Westerhoff, looking at aging with HIV. So Tendai, we know for women, you are taking your ARVs, you're having these challenges. When you're also aging, we have menopause coming in. How are women living with HIV coping with that? Because I also know even women who are not living with HIV, they're struggling. Add your pill burden that you spoke about, and then menopause is coming in, playing around with an individual. What's happening there?
Yes, you can see even when I'm here, I'm sweating. It's not these lights. That's the menopause. I'm in that period of menopause. Sometimes even when I'm in the car, I just flash. Kunge munadirwa mvura. You know, and it becomes so uncomfortable, you know. It can make you sad, apparently. So each time I have to move around with a fan to fan myself. Otherwise, it's uncomfortable. Yes, we need to talk about the issue of menopause. But when we were talking with others, they were saying that they also went through those periods. Even when we talk about the sexual and reproductive health, at satambonzwa issue ya menopause ichuya, is it really a reproductive health issue or not? But when you are aging, it can be so uncomfortable because it affects your body. Sometimes you don't feel a body weakness, sweater, appetite, mood swings, and a lot of things. Saka we need kuti tipuwe information tidzidziswe you know kuti tozvihandla sei zvinhu zvakadai izvi because ndo zviri kuitika kwatiri and we cannot really say zviri kukonzerwa nemishonga yokurapa HIV yatinayo. It's something that is inevitable in every woman when they are late 40s zvakuenda mberi zvinoexpectwa kuti zvinozopera naturally but we don't know kuti zvinopera rini.
Yes, and when we are looking at vamwe there are some people vanoti takutora mahormone or whatever tablets avanenge vachitora, and then with all these challenges that you spoke about, for others they've got that comfort yekuti ndogona kutora tablet iro, ndogona kutora even alternative therapy yakati just to lessen manenge. But when someone is taking ARVs, there's that drug interaction inogara ichitaurwa.
Exactly.
How then do people cope?
Yes, it's I wouldn't advise people to just go and take these therapies. Chese chinonzi mushonga chaunomwa usazvipe wega. When you know you are on ART or ARVs and living with HIV, I would not advise a person to, because wanzwa sisi wako vachiti kana kuti shamwari yako ichiti ndiri kutora ichi. Go back to your healthcare provider and explain your situation. And kana unawo mshonga enda nawo unovaratidza. Nokuti imwe mishonga iyi ndo atinoti ma-quack cures. Inini personally, I've never taken hormonal therapy. I believe that it has to end my whatever I'm going through now should just end naturally, maybe through counseling, mixing with others, my support groups, and managing my lifestyle. It has to end naturally. And a person like me, I'm very, very cautious. And I'm taking HIV treatment. I would not want to tamper with that process, no matter what. You know, the only treatment I will ever take is when I'm sick, I go to the clinic, ndanyorerwa prescription na doctor. That's when I'll take, even to buy things on the counter. I avoid kungotora chino. My solution is my treatment and good nutrition and a healthy lifestyle amongst myself. That's what I do.
So what message would you give besides this issue of making sure that people don't just take treatment, which will interact with their ARVs? What other message would you give to our aging population, which is also living with HIV, facing all these challenges?
Yes, all what I can say is that if a person is experiencing zvinhu zvatataura izvi nezvimwe zvatinogona kunge tisingazvizivi, tinoenda patinoenda kunoita marefills edaya tichidzokerawo klinika, ngatitaure nevari kutitarisa utano hwedu, ngatikurukure in confidence tichivaudza the things that we are going through, so that tinopuwa remedies that have been tried and tested and approved. And I say to people, let's not just take anything that you see on the street or that comes on the market. Chichinji chinorapa menopause kana chinobatsira kuti mwiri wako uite unzwe zvakanaka. You know, kana zvinhu izvozvo zvisina kutestwa, zvisiri approved, zvisiri musystem yemishonga yatinofanirwa kunge tichitora, zvisiri mishonga yaprescribed na doctor, let's stay away with those things. And sometimes we may want to blame art, but sometimes zvinhu izvozvo ndo zvinozokonzeresa zvimwe zvinhu zvinenge zvakuitika mumiri medu, iyo drug interaction yatanga tichitaura nawo. Inini with my experience, my ARVs hadu kumixwa nezvino. Ndakambozvitraya zvangu pawaiti ukanzwa chakati tora garlic, ndikatonzwa garlic ndinotodisturbeka kunge ndamwa poison. So I avoid. Because nditoziva kuti it interferes with my system ndiri pamushonga. Yes, garlic is good. For other things, you can use it. You know, for other things you can use it, but personally for me, if I take garlic, ngoidya yakadaro nchimwa mshonga, inondicreatera ma problems. And then there is zvakaita fanika vanandorora nevai. Kana tichikura kudai, because we have been taking too much of these drugs, tinogumisira takuita ma liver and kidney complications, because sometimes they are now overworked to clean up the waste inoitwa nemishonga nezvimwe zvemusystem yedu. Saka ndonzwa kuti dzimwe nguva vanandorora nevanokuvadza futi my kidneys. So everything, please, I say to aging people, to people who are on ARVs, don't just take quack cures. Yes, tinoziva kuti tiri ma-Africans tinotora ma-herbs, but ma-herbs ane nguva yaanoshanda mune zvakanaka, handisi kuti ngatisadye. But inini I see my-herbs sema-food supplements, nokuti ari muchikafu chataidya. But you don't just take any food supplement, especially food supplement inenge ichitengeswa mungave mupharmacy kana mustreet isina label, isiri kukuradza kuti quantity yayo yari kugadzirwa food supplement mune chii, protein kana ma-carbohydrates, what is the composition, but yakangonyorwa kuti vitamin A kana kuti vitamin B kana kuti vitamin C, wongotora uchimwa. So sometimes we create problems like, for ourselves. Let's safeguard our health, especially us who are now aging with HIV. Akuskufa, you know, tinayo HIV until whenever, but we also have to to help our bodies to cope with HIV and to ensure that we adhere properly to our treatment as prescribed. Thank you.
Tendai, it's always a pleasure to have you on the talk. Every time we have you, we get new insights into the developments that are happening within the HIV response in Zimbabwe and globally. We heard from Tendai, and my appeal, especially for those who are on ARVs, you heard from here, we do know about the dangers of interacting with other drugs. No matter how much or how many challenges we encounter that are health related, let's always make sure we consult with our medical practitioners. Until next week, it's goodbye from all of us.